invocation by Councilman Tony Brown, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would stand, please.
Let's pray. Dear gracious God, we come before you tonight, and we just thank you for your many blessings. We pray for this night's meeting. We pray for wisdom on all of our parts. I pray, Lord, that you'll help us to make wise decisions for the wellness of this community, Lord, that we love so much. We pray for our police officers, Lord. We pray for our firemen, all of our first responders. We pray for the other governments in this country, Lord, that seem to be in turmoil all the time. We just pray for unity, and we pray for guidance upon them and give them wisdom. Pray for our community, Lord. We're in the season of your son's birth, and we pray that, Lord, we don't forget that. But we do have a lot going on in this community this coming weekend. We pray, Lord, that you'll give us protection and guidance while we enjoy the Christmas season. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, would you like to call roll, please?
Mayor Lake,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hurt,
Here.
Councilman Bobby Brown,
Here.
Councilman Tony Brown,
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly. Here. You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Are there any public comment cards?
I do have one. I have one from Mr. Adam Graff.
Mr. Graff, would you like to come up to the podium, please?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the record, just state your name and where you live.
My name's Adam Graff. I live at 675 Southwest Cardinal Drive.
Thank you.
Reason I want to come up and address the city council is I know on the last city council meeting, and there's been a motion about putting stop arms at the school. There's also been some issues with signage and everything else around there. I know it was something that came up that we found out about it through the grapevine. We were never spoken to about this happening. We recently went to a meeting with you, Ms. Lake, the school board representative, Tina Bullock, and a bunch of members of the school board. During that meeting, we discussed some issues with installing stop arms and also issues that are up there currently. Some of those being traffic driving down Pecan and a previous ordinance that was basically drafted back in the 90s. There's a lot of concerns with that ordinance on different levels. One of those being the ordinance as written actually restricts the residents on Cardinal Drive and Breezeway in Pecan within that area of actually accessing their property during certain hours. The school has said, yeah, people aren't following the traffic signs. There's signage on there that does not match up and is not placed in accordance with the ordinance. The ordinance basically says no traffic will go down Pecan. The signage says no through traffic, which I've been a law enforcement officer for 20 years. I have experience in traffic enforcement, school safety, political corruption as what I do for a living. Those signs become unenforceable because, one, they're not placed by ordinance. They're also contradictory to what the ordinance says. So on Pecan, you have several signs for entering to it that says no through traffic, which, as experienced as a law enforcement officer, means, yeah, you can't travel down the entire roadway, but you can travel down and turn onto roadways. So if coming onto Pecan from Orchid or from the other side, technically you are still allowed to turn onto Breezeway and Cardinal. The other issues are you have signs down on the other side of Breezeway and Cardinal where they come in from Jasmine that say no traffic allowed to enter at all. If we go by the ordinance, I have no way to access my property if I leave that. Neither do anybody else on Breezeway or Cardinal. The issue we come with this is, a lot of people are wanting to put a physical, intrusive traffic control device, such as a stop arm, for the school board. And nobody stopped to, let's say, look at this ordinance, revise it so it can be enforced and it doesn't violate people's property rights. And then you won't have the need for these stop arms, because what will happen is you'll have law enforcement who can then actually have the expectation of when they enforce the traffic signs, being able to issue the violations they need to and have it stand up in court. The other thing too is the way it's written right now, there's no exception for the buses either over there. I mean, we could point out a lot of the signs out there. There's a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit sign for Pecan right there by Highland and to Orchid. It's only going in one direction. There's no sign on the other side saying 5 miles per hour. When you look up the state statute for school zones, it actually says the speed limit is not to be under 15 miles an hour unless set by local ordinance. Yeah, I don't know if there's an ordinance that sets that, but that's something that needs to be looked at as well. It kind of looks like back in the 90s, the city council didn't do a thorough job in writing this ordinance to actually provide the best protection they need to, but also take into account the citizens' rights for their access to their property. So this is some of the things that we've come up, and I know a lot of this, I get the feeling from it that it wasn't really done in a proper fashion where, somebody brought a proposal up and it be provided to the city manager, the city attorney, public works, for them to go back and review ordinances, signage and stuff like that to make sure that they do fall within constitutional rights for property owners on those areas.
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Okay.
And so we're going to take that item up later in the agenda.
Okay.
If there's something you want to say at that time, that would be appropriate.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
No, thank you.
I do want to recognize with us, it was a surprise to see former County Commissioner Doug Conkey, now legislative aide to St. John's River Water Management District. I know you're really eloquent, and it's going to be okay to put you on the spot and ask you to come up and introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you, and thank you for your service, having done that many, many years ago, and wanted to come back to home. Life at 30,000 feet is nice, but a chance to be home on a regular basis is nice as well. And you guys are doing a great job down here at Keystone. I've come down here, and what I've seen from over the years, you got a great thing going on. Thanks to the leadership of Senator Bradley, we have the Black Creek Water Resource Management well on its way. Vivian is like the project manager, keeps you appraised of it far better than I
sure.
can probably, but it's on target for next summer. And that brings down obviously a lot of water for the aquifer, and obviously the secondary is the filling of the lakes. But another program that we have, I really want to emphasize because Keystone has not taken advantage of it. When I was sitting there, leveraging other people's money was always a good thing. Transportation, you name it. And now that the feds are writing some big checks, you can put in for some federal money to enhance your portion of a requirement, but it's the cost share program that we have. There's district-wide and there's innovative. From an entity perspective, if you qualified, you would be the district pays up to 25%, up to $3 million per entity, or if it's an innovative project, up to $500,000. Now, these are great programs, but they are very specific, they're competitive, and it's construction cost only. So I had a great meeting with Lynn today, so she's got some things that she'll probably bring to your way. And we would get staff to sit down with you to kind of walk you along to what you really want to do to be competitive. It's not just a better enhancement of flow. We're looking at things like alternative water supply, storage capacity, water conservation, nutrient reductions, most likely nitrogen and phosphorus, protection from flooding, and natural systems protection. So those are some very key items, and the district is very engineering centric. So that is very important that a consultant, you probably have a consultant, can help you put a package together. It's a January, February application, April approval by the board, and then 1 October is when the money comes to you by the district, and it's for construction costs only. So these are ready projects, ready to go. So that's why Lynn's got some things to do. I know you are working on some plans, but it is something that you want to leverage to help you do the great things you are doing, which is enhancing the quality of life here in Keystone. Because growth is coming. We see it surrounding us. You see it to the north. It used to be a quick ride through Middleburg. It's not so quick. When I came down here this last time, I was like, wow, things have changed just in the short time that I've been away. So I want to thank you for your service. I'll be available I'm back to being a soldier and a public servant to help you and do the things that you want to do for your community. But cost share program is something that you want to take advantage of. Orange Park, Penny Farms, and Green Cove have done it or are doing it right now. And we're talking millions of dollars over since 14, $750 million in actual construction costs have been funded to the cost share programs in totality. So this is an opportunity for you to do some great things down here, and we're here to help you along that process. So hopefully, probably in a year and a half, you're ready to go and continue knocking things out of the park. So if you have any questions, but I'm always here for service. You have any questions, and I will be down working with you folks, setting up some meetings, and I cover Northeast Florida. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was nice
And,
for you to see you and to have you come up and speak with us.
Yes, and you have a wonderful night.
All right, we're on to item 2 of the agenda, resolutions. Item A is the 2021-09 resolution FDOT agreement. Is there a motion to read by short title?
No, I'll make that motion.
Is there? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Commando.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Resolution 2021-09, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Keystone Heights, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute a traffic signal maintenance and compensation agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation, providing for an immediate effective date.
Any questions of staff? Any questions? This is the mowing contract for FDOT on state road right-of-ways.
This is part of our FDOT contract. This is actually for the signal maintenance
Oh,
agreement.
signal maintenance, sorry.
So we contract with the county and pay them as the signals break down, and then FDOT pays us an annual sum of the 17 and change to make sure that we maintain them properly.
No questions? Seeing no question, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move passage.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. We are on to appointments. Item 3 on the agenda, we have an application for planning and zoning. Ms. Rakowski, would you like to take lead on that?
We have Mr. Dylan Bennett here from Planning and Zoning. His application states that he resides at 815 South Lawrence Boulevard. He is in the audience. He is here this evening, so if you'd like to ask him any questions, we do have one vacancy on our board.
Excellent. Mr. Bennett, would you like to come up to the microphone? Thank you. You can state your address for the record,
Yes.
please.
My address is 815 South Lawrence.
And welcome. I was talking to him before the meeting a little bit, and he is my daughter's age, right? And so I
Yes.
was really appreciative that somebody that young would be willing to step up and get involved in local civics. So do any of you have any questions of Mr. Bennett?
I do. Mr. Bennett, how long have you been a resident there at 815 South Lawrence Boulevard?
I've been living there for about 2.5 years now. Cohabitate with my wife's family, owns the property, so I live there with them.
I see you have a background as a paralegal for 6 years. I can't quite make out National Mass Tort, TORT firm.
Yes.
So you were doing personal injury work, basically. your
Personal
firm was.
injury, product liability for pharmaceuticals and medical devices.
Any background in real estate at all?
That was one of the portions that I picked when I took my paralegal examination, was in real estate.
Okay.
So-
Just an observation, I served on planning and zoning, and you're kind of walking a tightrope. You have to enforce the ordinance, but yet you have to be fair.
Mhm.
And with your legal background, I think that would be a good match, and that's why I asked that question.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Bennett? Is there a motion to move approval?
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Well, welcome.
All right, thank you.
We appreciate your time and your service. Agenda item 4 is the consent agenda, which includes the financials of October, the payables of October, and the minutes for the October and November meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Under old business, item 5A, Keystone Heights Elementary School, ILA. I'll turn this over, I guess, to Ms. Rakowski. We can give us an update of what's happened in between last meeting and this meeting.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So this is an interlocal agreement between the City of Keystone Heights and the Clay County School District in regards to how the road closure of Pecan is enforced. Now, it was requested from the elementary school principal that we put, or that barricades be placed. Their school district has come forward and said that it would be their responsibility to install them. Mr. Commando has drafted this agreement, and so the conversation really is in how council chooses to enforce the road closure between them those times. And then on a side conversation, Mr. Commando and I are addressing the ordinances with the school district to make sure that the times meet the school district's needs.
Okay, and then there was an update based on the conversation we'd had with the graphs, that we were re-looking at the signs that were at those locations, and in fact, as a result of that conversation, we've ordered new signs. Is that correct?
There are signs that are being ordered that will state, do not enter on Pecan, where the roads are closed between Highland and Orchid, and then also on Cardinal and Breezy Way, so you cannot enter, and it'll state the ordinance number, which will refer to what times you are not able to enter Pecan. And then in conversations with Mr. Commando, the ordinance does state that buses and school traffic will be allowed, and then there will be a sign on Bond and Jasmine that says no through traffic, and will reference that ordinance number as well, so that you know that you are not able to go through from Jasmine to Pecan during those times.
And Mr. Commando, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Are there any questions? Mr. Brown?
Well, you know that I have heartburn about putting pipes or a fence across Pecan. I made a phone call this afternoon to the sheriff's department because I had some questions about PSAs and their job descriptions. And my understanding, the ones that are there, because I've been in that area for the reason of just watching after this has all been brought up. And about a week or so ago, I noticed a truck did turn. School buses were already gone, but the PSA was sitting there. The school police officer was still sitting at his post, and the truck went down. So my understanding is the PSA that is at post there is only there for school crossing. In order to have someone there to stop traffic, they would have to put another PSA. And maybe the city manager or you, Mayor, out of your meetings and everything, I don't fully understand who's going to open those gates. I mean, you're going to want them across the Highland and Pecan and Orchid and Pecan, but who's going to stand there in the rain, in the cold, or whatever, when that road is closed, and open that up and close it?
Our understanding, Ms. Rakowski can correct me if I'm not remembering, but our understanding is that the elementary school is responsible for the bars. 100%, it's their bars.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So the request, I believe, came first across to Mr. Kenny Hall, our Public Works Director. The conversation was that the school was concerned with timing as far as putting cones or other barricades out there at the time constraints that it would take, and so they felt that it would be a much better use of their time and a much safer for the children if there was arms that they could open and close throughout the times that the roads are supposed to be closed through traffic. So everything from installation, maintenance to possible removal and then operation will be under the school district.
I think before we allow these posts to come, or pipes or whatever, the gate to come up, is we go with the signs and go with law enforcement and put a motor there, let them stroke some tickets, and that'll get through the parents not to come down through there. My other concern is you can put signs up, and like Breezy Way and Cardinal, and people are still going to be coming up through there. And what's going to stop them from going on the Pecan and doing the same thing as somebody from 21 coming up, or come across Orchid. I mean, it's, apparently there, I mean, it is dangerous. I won't, anywhere you got kids and you got automobiles, I mean, I stood out last night and directed traffic at a wreck on 100 and almost got hit twice. And so, but it's just, I have an issue with installing those things across our street. Another thing is if you have an emergency, if one of those houses down on there has an emergency and the GPS on the fire truck or rescue unit tells them take Pecan, and they get there and those things are locked up, that's a concern. So I just think we ought to take our time before we go putting pipes up across the street.
Anyone else? Mr. Hart?
One thing I don't think has been mentioned at all is, and this is all about public safety, but if you put these, as you mentioned, pipes in the ground, you have a distracted driver who's texting or whatever, and they go off the street and hit the pipe. I'm not sure what our liability would be, but we probably would end up being a defendant in some lawsuit. So I think you're maybe eliminating one hazard, or at least tamping it down, but you might be creating another one. So I sort of agree with you, Tony. I think we ought to just kind of cool it and see if the school can muster, and the sheriff's department muster the resources, and also clean up the ordinance that was mentioned earlier. I think that's the smarter approach. Not saying we won't do this, but I think we need to take another look at it and try other alternative methods before we actually jump into this. So that's my thought.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes, I agree.
I thought we were going to consider one-lane traffic instead of shutting it down and piping it, and it would be a one-way, one-lane through that area during the school, so that nothing would have to be shut down, blocked off, or anything. And then if we approve like the pipes and the cross arms and everything, if that's not up to national code, we could probably be liable if somebody bumped into one of those things. I'm just saying.
Okay, so what I'm gathering from council is that you want to slow the roll and allow those signs to be up, and then what kind of time period do you want to, because the elementary school is going to ask, I mean, they're going to come back to us and say, how long is too long if things continue to happen the way they're happening now? What is the time period in which the city council would need to relook at this?
I personally think February, because you got Christmas holidays coming, there's not going to be any activities around the school, and then you got January, and give it a month and see what happens.
I want to make a motion to table this for further action down the road. Somebody can make a motion later to bring it off the table so it's not dead. And I'm also going to request that this stays on our agenda from month to month.
Is there a second?
Could I make one comment first?
Yeah, well, we first and second, so it's up for discussion. You can go ahead.
It would be possible to have maybe a small workshop with the DOT, finding out what the possibilities are.
Well, actually, DOT is not involved in this at all because we own the streets. They're
I
municipal.
know, but they've got people, engineers and stuff. Maybe we could grab one by the ear and discuss it with the
Mr. Ca-
possibilities.
Mr. Rakowski has an answer, I believe.
So, based on the conversation of last month of shifting traffic to one-way, after having conversations with our engineer, that is going to be something that council as a whole would have to direct staff and then the engineer to go into, because that's a scope of the entire city and traffic flow before we start changing roads to one-way. So if that's money and how the council would like to budget or spend their budget is to do that kind of study throughout the entire city, I would not recommend going to just a one-way on a road without evaluating the surrounding areas.
Any other discussion, any other questions for staff?
So that is something that I can put on the agenda next month if council chooses to discuss, but that will be a council decision on it, and then receive a scope and fee from GRMP. I'd like to include them in the ground floor on that conversation.
Okay. So what I hear here is we want to table this. There's a motion and a second on the table for tabling it till a future date when we can take it off. And then also hear that staff would like us to consider an engineering study on that particular.
If that's the will of the council.
Mr. Brown, what would you like? You had strong opinions about this.
I think we just table it for right now and see how the signs work out.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will table it.
Can I say one other thing on that?
Yes, sir.
I would like for the city manager to have a conversation with the sheriff's department and the traffic department and see if when school comes back in January, is they do a little bit of patrolling down there. And I know you stroke some tickets, people get on Facebook and everything else, and if they're going down streets that are not supposed to, especially during the school time, they need to have a ticket.
And then just to close the circle, Mr. Graff, any words? Do you have any more public comment?
Yes, ma'am, I do actually. So I know Mr. Brown mentioned Florida Department of Transportation. They do provide services for local municipalities as well to make sure their signs are in uniform compliance with their handbook. They actually have a manual that allows cities, municipalities, counties to maintain the uniform traffic control devices. So that way signs are sure to match what they're supposed to be accomplishing. I just went completely blank. As far as enforcement, the school board police department has signed a memorandum of understanding that allows them to enforce traffic out to, I believe, 1,000 feet from the school. So, in addition to contacting the sheriff's office, the school board is having these issues. Maybe the city needs to contact the school board and hold them as to sending extra school board police department members out here to help enforce this traffic as well, instead of taking away the guardian or the school board PD, the resource officer who's required by state law to stay on campus. I know these were things that we had also talked about during the meeting we had with you at the elementary school.
Right.
So I was also in talking with Department of Education. They've also mentioned that they'd been talking to superintendent level, not necessarily school superintendent, but like transportation superintendent, as far as other options besides using that one roadway as well. I'm not sure of the exact details, but and two of the options included changing the bus loop to another location inside the campus.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.
All right, moving on. Agenda item 5B, Waste Management Commercial Contract. I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Rakowski.
Yes, Madam Mayor, so we have the contract from the rates that were brought to you a few months ago is back in front of council for conversation, discussion, and motion for sign. Mr. Commando can probably speak better to the contract.
Last month, the council considered the rate increases when what's in your packet, starting on page 62 of the PDF, also contemplates an assignment, which was not something that the council discussed. So my advice to Ms. Rakowski was, at a minimum, she come back before council to discuss the assignment between advanced disposal and waste management.
I'm sorry, advanced disposal and
Waste management.
waste management. Any questions of council? Any questions?
I have one if somebody can explain to me. I know what the dumpsters look like behind our businesses, but are they 2 yards or 4 yards, 6 yards? What is the norm?
Can you come to the podium and answer this question for me, please?
I'm just trying to figure out the price on this rate schedule.
Yes, sir. For the record, Marcel Dalby.
Thank
I'm the
you.
Area General Manager for Waste Management, based out of 6501 Greenland Road in Jacksonville. To answer your question, the dumpsters here in the city range between 2 and 8 yards. So an 8 yard would be basically the largest front load dumpster that you would see, where the 2 yard is more like the size of a desk. Sometimes it's on wheels that may be rolled out. That's kind of a 2 yard. 4 yard gets larger. Obviously, a 6 is pretty large, and then an 8 yard would be kind of the size of roughly 4 desks, if you would. So it's 8 cubic yards of volume within inside the container. most of the schools, most of Burger King or Starbucks. An 8-yard is kind of the most common
okay.
size dumpster, but they do obviously come in smaller sizes.
Okay, any other questions?
What other municipalities do you serve where you haul the dumpsters? And first question, second question is this rate structure comparable to what you're charging in other municipalities?
Sure. So I oversee all of our hauling operations for 6 different hauling companies, if you will, ranging from Daytona up to South Georgia. We service municipalities from Ormond Beach area all the way through City of Jacksonville. We have exclusive agreements with some other cities, Yulee, Ferdinand Beach. We service all of City of Jacksonville in an open market capacity for commercial businesses. So that's kind of the area, if you will, that we service, at least locally within my realm of responsibility. As far as the rates, I know we talked a lot about that a couple of meetings ago. I would say the margins that Waste Management needs to obtain in order to maintain the business is equivalent to those rates. The difference is here, and we discussed this again, really are 2 things. It's the distance. So as you know, obviously where Keystone Heights is located, but by ordinance of Clay County, all of the disposal has to go to the Rosemary Hill Transfer Station, which is in Green Cove Springs. So it's a pretty significant travel time of about 30 miles to get to that disposal facility. The other thing that's somewhat unique to Clay County versus some of our other municipalities, particularly City of Jacksonville and some of the northern municipalities in Ferdinand and Yulee and those kind of places, the material by ordinance of Clay County has to go to that transfer station, which has an additional expense above and beyond what would otherwise occur if you were going to a landfill. So when you go to the transfer station, there's the cost to operate that transfer station. The trucks dump at a transfer station, then it's physically loaded into 18-wheelers, and then it's trucked to a landfill. So there's kind of double handling cost, if you will, that's a part of that. And again, that's something that is a Clay County ordinance. So that does, between the distance and the fact that it goes to a transfer station, that does increase the rates.
Is there a municipality that you serve that has a comparable distance factor?
Not locally. We service St. Johns County, and they operate 2 transfer stations. They're a little bit closer as far as because they have 2 transfer stations, we're not 30 miles away from that transfer station, really anywhere within the St. Johns County area. There's a little bit better density, I guess, with St. Johns. It's not as far spread.
So there's no comparable that we could compare your rates here with another municipality because of the distance factor?
No, sir, I would say not directly, not at least not in any capacity that goes to a transfer station.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
As a small business owner, fortunately, I don't have to have a dumpster. But I've chewed on it a lot over the past month, and I really like the proposal that the vice mayor gave for this year to, what was it, 11%? And we were doing 3%, and we really weren't budgeted for 11%. So, I mean, I would like to see us get some numbers for January meeting on what that would bring these costs down to the business owners if we went with a 3% for another year. And then that gives the city time to figure out what we're doing.
So if I may, there's an 11% administrative fee that we collect as part of our billing structure, and we remit to the City of Keystone Heights.
Correct.
There's also a 14% Clay County franchise fee that gets remitted to Clay County. I guess to answer your question simply, if council was willing to do anything less on that 11%, we would be obviously willing to change our bill rate in accordance. That 11% is an add-on on top of our bill rate to service the City of Keystone Heights. I think what was discussed last month was an idea that because our rates are going up, the city would receive more franchise fees than what they would normally.
Right.
And originally, just as history, that franchise fee was put in place many years ago, 2013, or even before 2015.
The contract was assigned to us, and it was considered an administrative fee because the city was doing the billing.
At that point in time, in 2015, Advanced Disposal, now Waste Management, took over the billing.
Yeah,
So there's an administrative fee that really, I won't say you don't incur any cost, I think.
The concept that I threw out at the meeting was basically taking the overage that the city receives because of the increase in the rates, put it in a lockbox type of situation, and then let the property owners that are aggrieved file a claim, and if the amounts of the claim are over what we have in the pot, we do it pro rata. That was my idea. It's a concept. Obviously, I haven't pushed a pencil on it. It's going to require some administrative work on our part and some extra paperwork on the part of the businesses, but at least it would be an effort to make them at least partially whole. You, I think, proposed doing it at your end by adjusting the rate. I would rather personally keep it in-house here so we don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about it. We take care of it locally.
I would say, sir, we're willing to do either at your direction. You know, we bill it. If it's something to save the administrative burden, you say you want to take the administrative fee from 11% to 4%. You could do that math and decide if that is satisfactory to the board. But if you were to do that, we could change our bill rate at your direction and remit a lesser payment, which maybe, I think, my math says 4% would get you roughly equal to what you are accustomed to receiving from Waste Management on behalf of that.
We might add a little bit of a COLA just to make ourselves, the city, a little more whole, but so we don't lose money on the deal. But at least it would give us a chance to administer this and go face to face with the property owners and business owners and work it out here. I think that's my approach.
So I would like to take it back to staff because what we're proposing impacts their ability to take care of that item. Ms. Rakowski?
So with that being said, a couple of conversations that happened at the last month, and then it was under presentation, so council couldn't make really any kind of decision. If it's all right and pleases the council, then I would recommend the possibility of tabling this contract and then allowing staff to work with Waste Management on what a 4% or whatever that COLA would look like so that the business owners see that benefit directly. As opposed to holding it in-house. I think in conversations just with Mr. Commando, that gets a little bit sticky as far as what we are capable of doing it, and I don't know how well received that would be from our auditor.
Yes, I actually like the KISS principle, right? Keep it simple.
Yeah.
So it sounds simpler to me if Waste Management bills accordingly to whatever level we decide to approve. But I don't necessarily think we want to complicate staff's life with giving them another thing to do and look at, for the duration of this contract. Would you all be okay with?
Yeah, and whatever adjustment is made would be retroactive to October 1st.
Retroactive to what date? I don't remember the date. Was it October, the October meeting?
That should be about.
I don't know, but they seem to have an issue with that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. Commando.
I said, I don't know the date, but Pierce Waste Management has an issue with that.
Yeah, for the record, Greg Huntington, Waste Management. We've already started the billing, obviously going back to October 1st, which we've been extracting the 11% administrative fee, which we've been remitting to the city. I think it's also important to know out of 57 commercial customers, all 57 of them minus 3 are up to date on paying their bills, which mean they have accepted the higher rates. Something to consider. What we don't want to happen is to continue to delay getting the contract executed, because as part of it, as Mr. Commando brought up, we were acquired by Waste Management over a year ago in October, and now they're trying to merge all the business units from Advanced Disposal into Waste Management Incorporated of Florida. It's an administrative thing for billing purposes and things like that. Plus, our legal team is not, what's the right word, feels secure about operating in a municipality without having an executed contract, because a contract provides certain protection and assurance for both parties. We'll do right by the city. We'll continue to operate until we get that executed contract. I would not want that to be delayed any further than it already has been, because we're into December.
Right, and that's understood, but understand that this came up very quickly to us too. I mean, this was not an issue, and now this was a huge issue. And so I think slowing the roll down again is a better way for us to conduct our business moving forward. So the businesses know the impact of what we've agreed to do for them.
But what we're discussing is reducing the administrative fee by a certain percentage, which can be done even after the execution of the contract. It doesn't affect us either way. Now, to go back and make it retroactive to October, that's going to be a bit of a challenge because it's already been extracted and remitted to the city. So we can the sooner you take action on it and want us to reduce it, we'll reduce the rates by as much as you want on that 11%. Or to your point, continue to receive the 11% and then make available a certain amount of funds to commercial businesses as a form of relief. But I'd like to see the contract get executed.
Any thoughts, council?
On that, on the 11%, what are we talking about?
So, under the old rates, you were looking at about anywhere between $6,000 and $7,000 to come in. With the increase in the rates, you're looking at anywhere between 20 and 20. Okay.
Yeah, so under the previous agreement, the city would receive $6,480 a year as part of the 11%. Under the proposed agreement that was voted on two months ago, the city would receive $20,100 a year. So based on my math, just simple math, if you were to move the 11% to a 4% franchise fee, you would receive $7,309 a year. So just a little bit more, $800 more than you receive currently.
Plus what we already got.
Right, so on a 6-yard dumpster, what are you talking about for a customer?
So on a 6-yard dumpster, the rate is $359.64 currently in the
new rate.
the billing that started October 1. If I can do some quick math here, I think that would reduce it to, no, that's not right. It would go from $359 to $345 a month. It'd be a 4% reduction. Excuse me, no, I'm saying it backwards. You guys would bill 4%. It would be a 7% reduction. My apologies.
And just so you're clear, it hasn't been 2 months. This was November 1st that we discussed this.
Sorry?
It hasn't been 2 months. It was November 1st that we had this conversation.
We began billing October 1.
You might have, that's just when the council heard it.
Right. The existing previous agreement expired at the end of September, and we began billing the new agreement October 1. So
Right.
we've billed October and November at this point.
Right, but the council didn't approve it until November 1st.
Understood. So to answer your question on the 6-yard, instead of being $359 a month, it would be $334.
I see a couple of business owners in the audience. Would one of you like to step up to the?
Before we excuse this witness, would your legal counsel be able to provide us with a comfort letter, basically saying that in exchange for us executing the contract, we would then work out the details as far as the rebate to make the property owners whole?
Yes. To be clear, we're absolutely agreeable to that. The only issue we have just administratively was the concern that we've already extracted that franchise fees for 2 months of billing and remitted to the city. If we wanted to give it back to the business owners, that would be 57 individual business owners that we would need to remit.
We'd have to leave it up to the accountants as to how to adjust that, but that could be adjusted retroactively.
I think we would be able to do that if we act soon to agree on the new rate. But we remit one check or one discount back to the city. We're not going to issue 57 checks for 2 months now to the individual businesses.
Well, but that puts us back in the situation we're in today. It's asking to approve something you haven't seen. I mean, if the council is willing to do that, that's one thing. But that was the whole idea to bring this back to you, was because staff wasn't comfortable with recommending approval of something that hadn't been kind of voted on by council. So, as you can see, there are a lot of nuances that kind of travel along with this type of discussion.
If I may, though, it was voted on in October.
The assignment was not.
No, not the assignment. The rates we're discussing. The assignment's a separate conversation, which we can talk about. We're talking about the rates here. That was agreed upon and voted upon in the October meeting.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So there was discussion about the rates, and then we received a contract with an assignment language. So that's not what was discussed. And
Sure,
that's
the
why-
assignment's a separate conversation. If we want to switch gears and talk about that, we can do that.
No, I'm using that as the example. That's why it's probably better for them to see whatever it is they're going to vote to approve.
Well, I think it came back to Mr. Brown wanting to revisit the idea of that 11% coming back to the city. That's why we're where we're at. But you can talk about the assignment if you want to at this point in time, and we can have any of those questions answered too.
I'd like to have that explained.
Certainly, yes. So, October 30th of 2020, Waste Management Incorporated purchased Advanced Disposal, Inc. Advanced Disposal, it was the 4th largest garbage company in America. Waste Management was the largest. We bought all of Advanced Disposal. Operations ranged from Florida up the eastern seaboard and across through the Midwest. That was just over a year ago, October of last year. The assignment that we are looking for here, so that happened, that's done, that was a year ago, that was a stock purchase that was reviewed to the federal government. What we are asking is the local entity of Advanced Disposal is called Advanced Disposal Jacksonville LLC. That is a legal entity which we intend to fully merge into Waste Management Incorporated of Florida, and it would no longer exist as a legal entity. For all intents and purposes, you've been doing business for the last year with Waste Management Inc., but from a legality standpoint, Advanced Disposal Jacksonville LLC exists as a legal entity, but is going to be merged fully and will no longer exist as a legal entity January 1.
So you're asking us to basically give consent to you assigning the contract, or admitting that the condition has already occurred?
It's a merger.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we've had the assignment explained. We've talked about the 11%. What's the flavor of the council?
I'd like to hear from the business owners.
I'm sorry, yes. Would you like to come up? You don't have to, but we would welcome your comments at this point because we're trying to do the right thing.
Hi,
Hi there, you want to state your name for
my
the
name's
record?
Gary. I do not live in Keystone, but I have a business in Keystone, 255 South Lawrence Boulevard. I'm one of the fellows that had a $90 bill, went up to $300 a month. This is why I came to you guys the first time. From the business owners that I've spoken to, we were hoping to get some kind of information from Waste Management, what was going to happen. That, what you guys are doing with the 11% is going to make no difference to us whatsoever. It's $5, it's $6, it's not worth our while fighting over that. You can probably send it to the non-for-profits and give them a bigger break as far as I'm concerned. Our question is, what are we going to do forward? We're not interested in paying these rates. That Waste Management doesn't spend any money in our city.
I'm sorry, ask
They
the
don't
question.
spend any money in our city. They don't do anything for our city. They do nothing for us. They just take. You know, I did the numbers after the last meeting that we had, $100 an hour per truck. Well, they had a truck come to our business and they put the dumpster in front of my door that we couldn't get into our business. I called them at 9:30 saying, hey, you need to come move this dumpster. I was told that they were already out of town. So they're here for 3 hours. That's $300. How are we paying $300 a month, each of us, times 57 of us, for 3 hours of work a week? I'd like you guys to put it out to bid. I don't think we should sign this contract. I think we should get 3 competitive bids as by the city ordinance. We're supposed to do that. That's how we feel.
And what are you going to do with your trash if they refuse to provide you service because they don't have a signed contract during the time period when we're letting this out for bid? You understand that this agreement will expire in September next year. We're talking 10 months.
Yeah, no, it's inconvenient. You know,
Yeah.
I come from a world of inconvenience before I moved to the United States.
It could be a public thing too.
It
If
could.
if the pickups stop and trash accumulates, then we get code enforcement, and then we have a bigger mess than perhaps we have right now. So I just thinking as far as the
Right.
general public good, this isn't something where we can wave a magic wand and make it go
No,
away.
I
We
understand
just
that
simply can't.
completely. The hardest hit was the businesses.
Right.
Residential didn't go up that much.
All right, but hypothetically, let's say we don't sign the contract. We say, okay, we're done. What are you going to do? Are you going to go out and hire someone to independently to pick up your
Yeah.
refuse? Are you?
I can get it from
Yeah, well, I'm
underneath.
sure you can,
Yeah,
but I'm asking you, what would you do?
that's what I would do.
That's what you would do.
I mean, I was going to recommend that if we're going to go stick with Waste Management because residential didn't go up as much, you can keep it for residential, but let the business owners go source their own companies. You know, if I can go to Waste Pro and get it for $186 a month instead of paying $300 a month, why is that not allowed? Because extra trucks in the city, they're here for 3 hours. There's a Waste Pro dumpster on State Road 100. There's 3 of them. Waste Pro's in our town anyway. It's not like we don't have other companies coming through our town to get to the places that are just on the outskirts of the city. They're using our roads. I mean, there's no law saying Waste Pro can't drive their truck through our town.
What if we were to, instead of extending the contract for a year, extend the contract for 6 months? You could continue to serve the customers, we could then do the bidding process. You guys would be, well, of course, invited to bid, we hope you do. But that would at least remove some of the pain on your side, but would still give you comfort that you're going to have customers here for another, 4 months.
Well, first, I would disagree. We are providing critical environmental services to the commercial customers. That's an exclusive contract. The residential is, or y'all are piggybacking off of Clay County's contract, so that's why there's not an increase there. And we do, I mean, when Lynn has requests of me for, be it event boxes and things like that, I always meet those demands, or needs, not demands, excuse me. We've always supported Keystone Heights when in the Northeast Florida League of Cities dinner meetings. We're open to doing things in the community, but our primary service is to provide critical environmental services. We're not open to, at this point in time, decreasing from what we offer. We initially offered a 3-year extension. The city wanted to do 1 year, so we mutually agreed to do the 1 year. So you're correct. We would never like it to come to the point where we would say, we want to stop service and pick up our containers and go home, because that's going to create a tremendous amount of heartburn for you and for us. And it's not true, because you'd have to change the city ordinance in order to make the city of Keystone Heights open market to allow other vendors to come in here. So nobody can just arbitrarily fire us and hire a new vendor right now.
My question was, would a 6-month extension be palatable versus a 1 year?
Well, to your point, I mean, we're already three months into it.
Exactly.
So we would prefer to stay with the 1 year extension. That'll give the city manager time to put together an RFP. And something to consider that would need to be done sooner than later, because for people to procure equipment such as trucks and containers is sometimes close to a year.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I certainly think we need to go out for an RFP. We need to see if there's more competitive numbers out there for our business owners. Pleasure of the council at this point in time. We've heard a lot of new information.
I have a question, Mayor. And I don't know if I heard you right, okay? But with us taking the administrative costs down and go back the way we were, you're saying that's not going to help?
It's $5, $6 when you work it out across the board. I would rather just donate my $5, $6 to a non-for-profit like the churches. They got hit the worst. I mean, they're non-for-profit. They come out with a budget, and their budget's set for the year. That's it. You know, as a private business owner, I have a little bit more leeway into making changes to my own budget, but they don't. I mean, so your non-for-profits, I mean, they're the ones that were the hardest hit, because even though you guys had the meeting about the rates and that, nobody knows about these meetings. Nobody knew what was going on with the rates until we actually just got our bill. It was a big surprise to all of us. And so churches have dumpsters. They got hit the hardest. So, you know, like they say, it will take time to get RFPs done and that, but I want us to actually move forward to getting it done. I don't just want to say, okay, well, we'll just suck it up and then forget about it like we did the last time, because that's why this happened. No one was on top of the game.
Well, I don't think we're going to suck it up this time.
I'm just saying. But I think I don't think the percentage will make a big difference to private businesses as far as what we're paying. You know, as far as like, our bills are paid. Yeah, it's because we have to. We don't want liens on our business.
And I appreciate your suggestion too, I really do. But I think as a council too, we need to understand from staff perspective, from a legal perspective, what it really means to have an open market type condition here, and change an ordinance to reflect that. So,
My concern is public health, and
Yeah,
if it
certainly.
becomes the Wild West, I know, Gary, you'll do the right thing, and I'm sure most of the business owners, but let's say you go out and hire someone who's got a truck, and they don't perform, and your stuff piles up through no fault of your own, then we have to step in and come knock on your door and say, okay, here's a $500 fine. Would it not be better to go along with the contract for the next 10 months?
No,
And let us do our job and put it out for bids, as you have suggested?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I just, but if we go with the attitude of, well, let's not do anything because something might happen and you might have to find me later, then we'll be stuck in this.
Well, I
this,
don't, that's not gonna
circle
be our
forever.
attitude.
Yeah.
That's not our
I
attitude.
mean, to not take a risk,
Yeah.
to try and not do something wrong is a bad way to go.
As to the,
Right, and
Yeah,
we want to do
mistakes
what's right.
Yeah, so, no, I mean, go with, we're already 3 months into it. We're stuck with it. We were all under the impression, we were already stuck with it for a year. We just want to make sure, we're under the impression that today's meeting was what we're going to do forward.
a question
Okay.
to legal counsel, is the assignment clause, is that a material condition that would change the scope of the negotiations, or is that just new business that we need to confront?
What do you mean by material?
Is it a material condition? In other words, we sort of have a deal, and we voted on it. Now this new clause is jumped in, and what I'm hearing is that they would like to be able to sign the contract to an entity, an LLC that they're creating, or have created for business purposes. Is that a material condition from our standpoint? Does it affect us?
Well, I think it does. I mean, that's the whole reason why you go out to bid. Otherwise, any hauler could sell to any other hauler and violate your procurement rules.
Was there a non-assignment clause in there before? I don't
Actually,
recall.
there's no assignment clause whatsoever in the
Okay.
original contract,
So
which is why it comes back to
your
you.
position is it's a material condition.
Yes.
Okay, so having heard all of that, any more discussion, any more questions of anyone in this room who can provide that for you?
I think
And-
we have the practical reality that as Gary has suggested, that yes, they can live with it. I'm concerned about the health hazard if we allow this to just, blow up and say, you've said take it or leave it, in essence. If we said, okay, we'll leave it, but that's not what I think we should do. I think we should honor the contract. I think we should be careful in letting it out for bid the next time. And I still like the idea of the adjustment of getting some money back and give it to the property owners, business owners that actually make a claim. Gary doesn't seem to be interested in doing that, but there may be some other business owners that do. So, and that's our problem. So my thinking is it's a hard pill to swallow, and I used to negotiate, I used to do business stuff. I don't like take it or leave it, but I think that's where we're at. I think we have to honor the contract. I don't think we can go back and make a motion to reconsider because this is not the subsequent meeting. So I think we have a contract, or at least an agreement to make a contract with the hauler.
I'm not suggesting you should, but it is the subsequent meeting.
What is?
Yes.
Oh, that's right, that was okay.
So I think at this point, what I'm hearing is we practically realize that we have another 10 months of this contract, and during that time, I really feel like staff and this council should aggressively pursue other options by going out to bid and looking for cheaper rates, because it's not a sustainable model for our businesses going forward.
And I think a condition of going ahead and approving the contract would be requiring a comfort letter from your attorney, basically saying, we will still work as far as the rebate situation. We'll come up with something creative as far as the accountants are concerned, so that at least business owners can be at least partially made whole. Is that agreeable?
Just, again, I
Yeah.
would just say, only in that, whatever's agreed upon, our monies would be remitted back to the city as a one-time check,
Yeah.
not to the 57 individual businesses.
Exactly, yeah,
Yes, sir.
we'd make it simpler for you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So your attorney will send us a comfort letter saying, yeah, we'll work with it on the condition that we sign the contract.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So at this time, then, what we're left with is the issue of the assignment, and realizing that they've merged and that we need to approve that. Is there a motion to approve the assignment?
Most contracts that I've done have said that you have to be reasonable in withholding approval for assignment. And to me, if they want to structure their business in a slightly different way, going from a corporate entity to an LLC, as long as the businesses are served and we don't, it doesn't cost us anything, I don't have a problem with pasting in the assignment clause.
Okay.
Unless there's something structurally wrong with the clause.
I
No?
think Mr. Commando would tell us if it was.
Yeah.
Yes. Any other comments about the assignment? Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown? Nope. Was that in the form of a motion, Mr. Hart? I was trying to listen
It
to
was
you.
more of an observation, but I'll make a motion that we swallow the pill, approve the contract as negotiated and as prepared, correcting any typos. I did catch one, but it's a minor thing. So that's my motion, that we go ahead and approve the contract on the condition that we get a comfort letter from their attorney saying that they will work with us in working out the rebate to us so that we can make the businesses at least partially whole.
Okay, and that would be on our next agenda, Ms. Burkowski, for discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0.
Mayor,
And staff is instructed to go ahead and sign the contract, I would assume.
Yes, she's the agent.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Brown?
the one thing is, I still would like to see some numbers in our next meeting.
Sure, and I think, was that your understanding, Ms. Rakowski, that we were going to be asking for those numbers at that meeting?
So numbers provided by
The 11% and
the
then,
11, so that would be something that we would, are you asking, I'm sorry, for clarification, there's two conversations. Are you looking for numbers on what the city would be holding as per Vice Mayor Hart's original proposal? The city would kind of put into a different fund of what could essentially be rebated back to each business? Or are you looking for numbers from Waste Management on what would the decrease would be if we reduce our rate?
The second one.
So those would be numbers that I would work with Waste Management on.
okay, so,
Provided by Waste Management.
If they can have that for us in January.
yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Urick.
So for clarity, because Vice Mayor is asking for a comfort letter suggesting that there'd be a willingness on our end to reduce that administrative fee
Yes,
from 11%
to whatever that percent is.
Now we're suggesting that, we're going back to his initial plan, which is to continue to extract the 11%, and then you can, as a city, can set aside some of those funds that the commercial account companies could make an appeal for. So in that case, we don't need a comfort letter.
So the conversation, as I understand it, from Councilman Tony Brown would be, he's asking for what that rate would be from Waste Management, if council decides to reduce their administrative fee from 11% back down to 4% or whatever to cover our original cost that was budgeted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then those numbers, I don't think that the city would be providing, that would be provided by Waste Management. The conversation from Vice Mayor Hart was continue to collect the entire amount, and then the city would then be responsible to putting those funds that we collected directly from Waste Management aside. Therefore, the businesses could petition or apply for their rebate at the end of the year.
Well, and here's the thing, I'm sorry, Mr. Hart.
Go ahead.
What happens now is that we have a combination of those two things, because we've already collected money for 2 months and probably another 3, maybe 4, depending if you do 2-month billing cycles at the same time. And then we have, some months that we would reduce it through their billing system. So, is that correct?
Well, again, we've billed for October and November, and then we're
So we
already-
have that money.
Yeah,
We can set
correct.
aside that money if we want to in the future for
Right.
business
I mean,
owners.
I mean, ideally, it would be, I say easier for us to continue to do what we've been doing. And then for the city to determine how much of those funds they want to set aside, and like, to your point, have communications with the individual businesses to say this money's available for relief if need be.
And under my paradigm, we're talking apples and oranges, under my paradigm, the comfort letter would address the issue of you're cutting one check back to the city so that we can get the pot started.
That's already happening. That's already happening.
You're suggesting from what we've already extracted in 11%
Yeah,
that we would
yeah.
be, sure.
Okay. Now, Lynn, how administratively, if we keep this in-house and deal with the business owners and don't change the percentage, administratively, how hard would that be?
As far as administratively, that's I mean, it would be a conversation that I would have with Ms. Gibbs as far as making sure that we have a different budget line, things of that nature. That can be handled through council and budget and finance, and then also through staff. My question would be as far as legal and then speaking with our auditor on how the reimbursements would go and what documents to be in place and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's,
Questions?
yeah, we're going into a level that's not typically.
It's in the nature of a trust account, or sort of like the cemetery fund, where we're just holding money in trust
So that's-
for them, basically, not for the property, for business
So,
owners.
so the business right now, I think we're in a comfortable place at this point in time. I think Waste Management gets what they want, they get a signed contract.
Exactly.
And then we can bring it back to council and we can look at this issue a little bit more in depth and discuss it ourselves and then move forward.
So the comfort letter would basically just say that you will continue to work with us as to the aspect of the rebate, how we handle it. In other words, we're not going to make that decision tonight. Contract to get signed.
Right. If you go in the direction where you're going to, because you're already receiving those funds, there would be no reason for us to rebate anything back to you under that model.
Right.
You would continue to receive the funds from us that we extract from the commercial businesses, and then you can make a decision as a council as to how you'd like to distribute that towards the end of the year. That wouldn't require a comfort level.
I know,
from
but
us.
should the council make the determination that we would like you to reduce the percentage? In other words, we want to keep that idea on the table until we make a final determination.
Okay,
That's
so,
all.
and you do one council meeting a month?
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So then the
Only
next
one
one's
trip
not
to
going to be...
Keystone every month, Gary.
So it wouldn't be until January, then
Yeah.
you make that decision.
But you get a signed contract now.
So we get the comfort letter to suggest we will be pliable with the understanding, you're going to sign the agreement with the idea of reducing the administrative fee percentage.
Whichever paradigm we come up with,
Okay.
mine or
We're completely fine with that.
Okay,
We just, our comfort level is that we get the contract executed and signed.
yeah, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, question, one question. When you take garbage from Keystone, I understand you have to take it like 1,000,000 miles somewhere to another, like a landfill that
Okay.
accepts that garbage.
So-
How far is that?
So Clay County, which Keystone Heights is a municipality within Clay County, Clay County has an ordinance, it's basically flow control, meaning they control the flow of where the garbage goes in their county. And so anything collected in Clay County, whether it be town of Orange Park, any farms, Keystone Heights, or just the unincorporated part of Clay County, is mandated to go to their facility in Rosemary Hill, which is roughly 30 miles from the city. Now, our hauling division isn't too much further than that, but obviously we have to come here, service the containers, and then take it back there. Potentially, if it wasn't a flow control, we might be able to take it hypothetically to Putnam County landfill, if that was closer, and save monies there. But, so we don't have any control over that.
Okay, but if there was a closer landfill, would it be possible for us to get excluded from the county on that? No? Thank you.
That's why we're between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. We're on to committee reports. Thank you for coming, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Yes, in closing, we've always greatly appreciated the partnership that we share with Keystone Heights going back over a decade. And we hope to preserve that going forward, but
Thank you.
Thanks for
But we have
working.
to discover. We need to
Yes,
do our
ma'am.
work. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're clearing out the room. Let's see if we can do some. Oh, yeah. All right. I'm sorry you missed 9 minutes of the hour meeting I was hoping to host. Committee reports. Budget and Finance. We don't have anything now, but it looks like we will have something to discuss this month.
Soon, yes.
Okay. Growth Management, Vice Mayor Hart.
No report.
Thank you. Mr. Kirkland, welcome. to the big stage.
Got a big smile on his face.
I know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, it's good to see you again this month. And I have 4 items I'd like to share some information with you about. As all of you are aware, we held the Crawlin' for the Fallen event. It was another successful event. This is their 3rd year, and this year it brought in over 750 Jeeps and 2,000 plus people. It raised thousands of dollars to help over 57,000 families through their partnership with Concerns of Police Survivors, COPS. The organizers stated that their event would not be possible without the support of Clay and Bradford County communities, law enforcement, and fire departments, as well as our vendors, the staff of the Florida International Rally Motorsports Park, and of course our participants and volunteers. And we're already looking forward to next year as well as they are. This past weekend was the Nitro Rally Cross Series event, and although the final numbers have not been announced as yet, it was estimated that over 3,000 spectators enjoyed the thrill-packed 2-day event. Lynn, Maria, and Lorena, the firm vice president of operations, and Representative Kamick spent Saturday engaging the public through live feeds on Facebook. They were encouraging people to come out and watch the races. Travis Pastrana skydived into our airfield on Sunday morning, while Chase Elliott, NASCAR driver number 9, piloted the jump plane. And you can check out the footage on YouTube. Also, MHD Rockland closed out the Sunday afternoon by flying one of their P3s over the event. And all the event participants will be meeting in the next 2 weeks for a post-event recap and talk about the event coming back next year. So stay tuned, a lot of excitement, and all of the comments have been very positive. Special thanks to Bradford and Clay County Sheriff's Department, especially with all of the traffic, and things went smooth, so we appreciate that. The last class that MHD Rockland has been engaged in from Germany for 2021 graduated in November, and the next class will begin right after the first of the year, so there's not much flying going on in December. And the last item I have, we have 2 FDOT FAA funded projects that are currently going on. Both are only in the design phase at this time. The first project is our runway 1129. That's our secondary runway. And that lighting project, and it's budgeted at $583,000. And the reconstruction of existing hangar area taxi lanes is budgeted at $200,000. And construction phase will not begin on either of these projects until the 3rd quarter of 2022. And that's all I have to report.
So any movement yet on the feasibility study for water and sewer?
I'll find out from Mr. Prang, our engineer, tomorrow evening at our meeting.
Oh, excellent, good. All right, then Ms. Lynn can give us a report after that. Any questions of Mr. Kirkland? Any comments from council to Mr. Kirkland? All right, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Planning and zoning, Ms. Rakowski?
The Planning and Zoning Board met a couple weeks ago to discuss the gas station here in town, as well as the construction of Popeyes of Greenway just before Commercial Circle. The Planning and Zoning Board approved the use by exception for the gas station and their site plan with conditions that they do meet the standards, the current codes for their new sign. So we're awaiting those plans to be reviewed by staff, and then they'll go ahead and move forward with their EA and everything else that they need to do on a state and federal level. With that being said, we did receive a revised site plan from Popeye's Chicken regarding the 3rd location that Planning and Zoning and staff has concerns, safety issues going onto that side service road between the parcel right next to the post office. So that will go into review to Planning and Zoning probably in January.
Okay. Any questions?
Just an observation, there's been some chatter on Facebook about the signage issue, and I think what happened was they lost their grandfather because they were closed for more than, 180 days? 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they now have to meet the new sign requirements.
That's correct.
It has nothing to do with us trying to be difficult or obstruct business or anything like that. That's correct, isn't it?
That's
That-
correct.
That's
And-
correct, and honestly, if they had started the process back when we originally asked them,
Yeah.
it would have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, perhaps that might hit the newspaper. That's the only comment I have.
All right, Mr. Hart, Heritage Commission.
A couple of things. The new chair is Nina Rodenroth. I think a lot of you know Nina. Very, very sharp lady. She's has a very high responsible position with a pharmaceutical company, and she is going to be the new chair of the Heritage Commission. Also, even though it's not technically Heritage Commission, we did have the Friends of Keystone Heights, the new corporation, hold its organizational meeting. The bylaws were approved. We have already added one more director. So that is the centennial group that's going to be affecting the city, and we're going to be working in a partnership arrangement with this corporation. At least that's how I envision it.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, special event alcohol in the pavilion. Imagine my surprise.
Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. In the past couple months, I've been approached by some people that are interested, like we talked about when this came up the first time, and personally, I'm not for just having it open for alcohol. But we do have some organizations. We do have a beautiful pavilion and we've had meetings down there in the past couple months, and everybody talks so highly about what the pavilion looks like compared to what it did look like. And we do have some organizations that might be interested in doing something there, as like Christmas parties, and then we have birthday parties people might want. We had a couple, I believe, got married a couple weekends ago down there. So I just wanted to bring this back up to the possibility of we look at readdressing, I personally do not want to see it where you can rent the pavilion and bring a keg and your liquor and all that stuff. I don't see a problem because this community is, I personally don't want to drive to Gainesville or anything for an organizational Christmas party or something like that when I can have it here in Keystone. A lot of people like to have their wine, their beer and stuff, and I would like to readdress that and get some type of something in the works to possibly readdress that in the way that it would be a special event. If anybody, if you're going to have something like that, you're going to have to plan it. You're going to have your logistics and all that stuff in order for doing that, even if you have a family reunion or a big birthday party for someone or a wedding. But I would like to see us look at that again and make it an event, a special event where, and I know there was a lot of questions, who was going to give the okay? We have the final word. We are the council, and we should be the ones. We okay all these other events that we have in the community, but I really would like to see the council be the ones to make the decision on the events, even with this, if that's something y'all want to look at again. People are renting the pavilion, as far as I understand. They're really, even with the price going up, it's still getting rented.
Okay, I love baby steps, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a baby step. I also have a concern about being the final decision if you anticipate telling someone yes and another person no.
That's leadership authority, and that's where it stops here. We do it all the time.
I just want to check in with Mr. Commando. Is there any reason that we would want to engage in a yes or no situation about alcohol, giving some people the ability to do it and denying other people the ability to have it?
It's impossible to give you an opinion without specifics because there's too many different scenarios that could pop up. But you do it with special event permits every day, every time they come up. You approve some, you deny some, and it's the wisdom of the council that determines why.
think we've had this discussion before, and I think the consensus was we would, if we went ahead with this, we would have to fashion some rules to live by so that the applicants would know what they would have to do, and it would be sort of like the zoning situation, that if it fits within the 4 squares of the zoning code, we would approve it. If it didn't, we wouldn't. And coming up with the standards, for example, deposits and that sort of thing would be something that I think it would be our job to come up with the assistance of legal counsel and with Lynn. Conceptually, I like the idea. I think the hang-up before was where would control of this be, and Tony, if I recall, your position was is the control should stay with the council for each event. And I went along with that. I thought that was a good idea. I sort of changed my mind. So I would not oppose going down this path. I think you are correct. Having people having to drive to Gainesville or Palatka or something like that to hold a private party, you're subjecting them to a lot more risk than they should be if we can just have it here, but have reasonable standards. So I wouldn't object to pursuing that notion.
Thank you.
Ms. Kelly?
I agree too, you just gotta be careful of having alcohol, especially with kids around.
Mr. Brown?
I would be opposed, the walkway down there. You have somebody coming in sober, it's fine, but getting them back out to our parking lot.
There is a serpentine as well. We have a serpentine sidewalk for handicap,
Well,
which is not as maybe dangerous as the stairs.
but I'm just letting you know, I would
Okay.
be opposed to it.
That's, Mr. Commando, we would entertain your wisdom.
I was just thinking, because you started with this conversation before, my recollection, the reason the council was considering having staff make the approval decision was the thought of if it's rented out, if the pavilion's rented out every weekend, did you want 52 applications coming to you every year? I'm just trying to bring it up to jog your memory as to why there was some of that discussion. But perhaps as a picking up place, if the council wants to start with where you left off and then give some feedback as to what you like and dislike about that last proposed ordinance.
If I recall, you drafted an ordinance which did allow the sale, but it didn't get into the weeds as far as the details as to how we would allow it to happen. Basically, it just made it a special event, if I recall.
We went through a couple different versions,
Yeah.
and that's why my thought was if you start with the last version, it might be easier sometimes just to start with words on paper. It might be easier at that point to provide some feedback to staff as to how you'd like to reshape it going forward.
Well, or simply make it legal and then basically hold it in abeyance until we come up with appropriate rules.
Well, event-wise, I don't think it would be for private events. It wouldn't be for the sale of alcohol or beer or anything like that. It would be basically if you're going to rent the pavilion, and would be a check mark on your application. Are you going to provide this? And then so that we would know what to expect.
Let me ask you a question. In your mind, when you see this forming, a private event could also be our Country Day, where you may not sell it, but you may rope off an area for people to sit and enjoy whatever they bring to that event. That would be a private event. Would that be included?
You mean, would it be sale of alcohol, or are you talking about people bringing in alcohol on their own?
On their own?
Well, they do that anyhow on 4th of July. I mean, you can't stop it. I mean, I've stood there at the gate, and there's alcohol there, but there's an ordinance against that, if I'm not mistaken. That's not allowed in the beach, and I'm not talking about in the picnic area. I'm talking strictly the pavilion for a party, for a retirement party, whatever, etc.
Something like that can be not just a check mark, but also a separate
Can you come up to the microphone, because we're actually live?
Of course. With something like that, couldn't that be something that isn't also a checkbox, but a nominal fee that they could get an extra, release for that specific event? So you're not necessarily, every event isn't getting approval. It would be that they want to have alcohol there for their patrons. They can, check that, have a nominal, application fee for that. It would also, act as a potential deposit, and then retain it and restrict it to the pavilion or a certain area. Or then, as easy as adding a separate gate towards like the left side of the park or something like that, where they would be able to come and go, since there's one access, as you said, that goes directly to that is kind of steep and dangerous. If you were to have a separate stairway and a release of liability that would go with anyone that was paying the extra permit fee, that could go some direction towards having specific events have alcohol, as far as a
Thank you.
suggestion.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I think I would like, if we're going to do this, restricted to private events such as graduation parties and so on, and not public events, because if the public can consume, bring their own stuff in, it's Katie bar the door, and then I think we're gonna have a real mess. But I think if we restrict it to just private parties, I think we're reasonable, I'm more comfortable with that,
Like I say, baby steps.
the baby steps.
Would you be in favor of having an officer kind of regulate that?
Well, yeah, you'd have to have some enforcement of
I
it.
mean, you'd have to.
Yeah, you could,
Because
I
once-
think it would
once they have
depend.
the party and you have a minor gets drunk. and
Well, there would
they
have
have a
to.
collision or something, then all this is a
They would
big
have to
idea.
have safeguards, they would have to have stamps, maybe even have a beer garden area, some place where kids wouldn't get in. And this sort of ties into the long-range plans with what we're gonna be doing with the park, say, across the street, where maybe we'll have more kid-friendly things across the street, maybe. So, but baby steps, I like that, idea.
Mr. Commando, I like your suggestion of bringing back the last iteration of the alcohol policy at the pavilion. Can we put that on the agenda for next month, Ms. Lynn? Okay, is that a good enough start for everybody?
Sure.
All right, so, excellent. All right, council comments. Mr. Brown, we'll start at your end.
I'm excited to be leaving on Thursday to go to Virginia. We got a whirlwind trip going up, so we can be back on Saturday for everything here. And I was going to tell Rich that I'm learning a lot about the law, because my daughter is in law school and she's getting ready to do her last semester when she gets back, and I guess I'm her wall or whatever to complain and talk about. So, but anyhow, I'm excited. It's a long trip, but it's worth every mile.
Excellent. Mr. Brown, Bobby?
I still am being bothered by, and getting a few phone calls about the garbage thing. And some of the calls that weren't returned to people, some of the calls that we need to do something about that, as far as having a log when people call in, so that, I mean, everybody here is here to serve the public, to the voters, the people, everything. We're in the service job here, and a job, and I just feel we don't need those kind of conflicts coming back up. Well, you didn't call me back, or you did this. I mean, we just excel in so many other areas. We need to work on excelling in all of our areas, especially the people that we're serving. And then I had a person bring up to me about our evaluations and stuff. I don't think that councilmen get evaluations, or
No.
do we?
No, voter.
But the evaluations, well, the voters are.
Voters
exactly.
evaluate, yes.
But the valuations, I guess, for our employees and stuff need to be brought up to date. They need to happen if they're going to happen, if they're required to happen.
So that is true. We have one employee. That employee is the city manager. We don't currently have a city clerk. So it would be this council evaluating Ms. Lynn, Ms. Rakowski.
So that, So like, all the city employees aren't
She
evaluated?
evaluates all city employees.
Oh, you evaluate
Yes.
them?
They all
and then-
report to her.
Then they, no, we evaluate her.
Yes, so we evaluate her on her ability to conduct the business of the city.
All right,
And she
well,
evaluates her employees on how they conduct the business of the city.
okay, but this waste disposal thing is just, it opened up a can of worms. I just think we need to, everybody, we're doing 99%, we're doing so good, but that other 1%, everybody's got to work on it. I just kind of, I think you were put on the spot to having to present the waste management, all that kind of stuff, and that shouldn't happen. If a person cannot be here to make that presentation themselves, that group, whatever, I think they need to put it off to the next month then.
I don't disagree. That would be a conversation that council has at the dais when they have their agenda, the ability to table any conversation that comes up there if you're not comfortable making those decisions.
Well, you see what I'm saying, though? I mean, your expertise cannot be waste management. It's not mine. You know what I'm saying?
Don't disagree. I don't claim to be an expert on that.
And all of a sudden, like calling on our attorney to do Supreme Court stuff. I mean, you know, if somebody that's wanting a change or an approval, if they can't be here, we don't need to have them. They can be here next month, and then we can discuss it. I just trying to head off some of these problems. It's just everything goes great, everything's fine, but when it doesn't, it's not good. But
Any other, is that it?
yeah, it's that last 10% that you got to strive
Gotcha.
for every day.
I understand. Ms. Kelly,
No, I'm fine.
you're fine.
Yeah. Everything's
Free
going-
and easy over here.
Everything's going good.
Everything's
My,
fine.
my remarks have been covered with the Friends of Keystone Heights. I chaired the last meeting. We're going to be looking for a chairperson for the Board of Directors at our next meeting, which will be in January. And just to make it clear for the record, this is not a city committee. This is an entirely separate organization, but it does loosely tie into what the city's going to be doing 3 years from now.
Excellent.
Okay, could I ask
Sure.
one more thing? Just trying to make things better. I've been out of town and a lot of stuff happening, and is it any way possible to get our city agenda? I know it may be changing, and we can't do it at the last minute, but could we get that maybe Tuesday or Wednesday before, or how hard? What kind of a hardship would that place?
So those get sent out, they get put on the website Friday afternoon, Friday evening, get sent out to council by Saturday morning. With that being said, I have regular meetings with council and review that last week, the agenda items. And so if council wishes to move that up a week for your items, then that's fine, but then that would be a deadline based on council as well.
So, yes, I meet with Lynn. Am I the last you meet with on Friday?
You are the last, so I have standing meetings with both Vice Mayor Hart and Councilman Bobby Brown on Thursdays.
On
And
Thursday.
then I have meetings with Councilman Tony Brown. I couldn't remember Vice Mayor, Councilman, and had put everything together. With Councilman Tony Brown and yourself on Fridays, and then Councilwoman Kelly usually calls in Tuesdays and Wednesdays and goes through an agenda. So with that being said, those are the standing meetings that I have weekly with council. If council chooses to do the agenda meetings 2 weeks prior, then that's fine as well. It's completely up to council.
Well, for me, 2 weeks out is a little bit too far ahead, because things can develop rapidly that may be able to be thrown on an agenda. We could always make an agenda, decision at the council meeting that we want to change it and add something. How soon after you meet with me, because Fridays are better for me, how soon after that can you, reasonably produce the agenda?
So typically it's out it's on the website that evening by close of business. So Ms. Christina, she's the one who handles that. She puts everything together after I've met with council, make sure that we've got all of the backup material. and everything else. So it's typically out on there a bit prior to her leaving on Friday afternoons.
How much further out are you comfortable with, Mr. Brown?
I was just a day or two maybe, just or whatever. And if it's not possible, I know now
So-
why.
Yeah, it would
No.
just be a matter of rearranging council meetings for a different date and continuing.
Mr. Brown, Tony?
History note is when we had the books, which was a disaster usually, and I did that for a long time. And it wasn't a disaster for me, it was for staff having to put all that stuff together and having it the way we have it. But we've still always had it, you know, by Saturday. Sometimes Friday afternoon, we'd have to come in and get our books. A lot of times,
Those were hand delivered on
those were
Saturday.
hand-delivered. And this way, I mean, you got 2 days, of Saturday and Sunday, to look over questions on Mondays if you have anything. But it's always been, we got it around Friday evening or Saturday mornings. So,
Yeah, and if we get it Saturday morning, that gives us really 3 full days before the meeting to study it and make some notes and, you know,
yeah.
prepare for it.
Like the mayor said, a lot changes in
Yeah.
a week.
We need that flexibility to keep it fluid.
And if you can get it out earlier, I mean, I can look at meeting with you earlier in the daytime. No, you're ahead of me.
I'm at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever.
Yeah, so I usually walk out of his meeting into yours. So with that being said, and then from 11 o'clock, it would only be a matter of an hour or two prior to, because then that's when, you know, all the data is being collected. We put the numbers on the agenda, put it in order. It becomes a computer thing at that point in time.
Okay.
So from 11 to 4:30, by the time it gets up on the website, then I go through it after, you know, Friday evenings, make sure it's ready, and then send it out to council with your schedule. So it's out there.
Okay. So just more consistently, maybe on a Friday afternoon.
So,
The more time, the better for Mr. Brown.
and like I said, it's typically available. She'll put it up on the website. I'll go through it. If I've got to change something, I'll take it down and then resubmit it back up to the website and send you the final copy of it.
Okay, all right. So November's been an extremely busy month. It's been a really fantastic opportunity to really be part of the community. I wanted to mention that County Manager Howard Wanamaker, Clay County Commissioner Betsy Condon, the school board member Tina Bullock, and myself and some residents met on State Road 100, and we reestablished a historical marker marking the community of Hillcrest. And it was kind of a cool little moment. We got to hear some stories from some residents who have been living there for a long time. And while it's not city limits, I love participating as a legislative delegation from this area and showing a united front with our other partners, the school district and the commission. So that was really, really wonderful. I did attend the Lake Area Ministries Volunteer Appreciation Dinner at Trinity. Again, it was a wonderful tribute to the current co-directors, Chip and Paula. And so they were sent off because they're semi-retired from Lake Erie Ministries, and we really wanted to appreciate them. Went to a Women's Club Christmas luncheon, Keystone Heights Straight A's and AB Honor Rolls, where we were asked to attend for the first time. And so now we've got the junior high school on one day, and we have the elementary school on another, and we give away lots of candy, which means we buy lots of candy. We went to the Business Association meeting. The elementary school actually had, for the first time, a veterans service. And I have to tell you, it was one of the best ceremonies I've ever been to. The organizers, Dana Eatman and Jen Cumbus, just did a fantastic job of putting together a very spirited program, very loving program, and significant to the veterans who actually showed up. And that was really wonderful. And then we had the AMVET service at the cemetery, which again, it's nice to see some council people come out and attend that and really honor veterans in our community. I and some others, Betsy Condon and Tina Bullock, have started recognizing business anniversaries in the community. Feel it's really important that they understand how important they are to our downtown and to our community. And so we celebrated the bakery's 3rd anniversary, because that year 3 is very significant in the life of a business. And we also celebrated Santa Fe Electronics 20th anniversary. which was really fantastic. We participated, or I went to the Kiwanis Golf Tournament, which was very successful. I think Mr. Hart would agree, it was a great turnout. Had a number of teams, made some money, so that will go back to the community. I went to the Ragtag Thanksgiving dinner at Mission of the Dirt Road. It's a beautiful spot on the lake. If you haven't been and seen Carrie Morford's property, it's just exquisite, and it's always wonderful to see the people who show up there. And we have a really good dinner. I attended the Farm City Luncheon in Green Cove, which was wonderful. It was cold, and it's outside, and it was cold, but it was okay. We had lunch with the seniors at the Women's Club. They were spirited and fun, and the place was really lively and joyful. And then we've had a Keystone Safety Net Alliance Steering Committee meeting and a gala at Camp Montgomery, and that was November. So it was really, really, really busy. I do want to take just a moment, personal privilege, to just express my sincere condolences to the family of Jim Gill. He was a huge man in my life, and we celebrated him yesterday, and it was really, really wonderful. And so, with that having been said, I move to city manager and city attorney. City manager?
Just to kind of move forward the conversation from Mr. Conkey earlier on this agenda, we will be sitting down with Mr. Richard from DRMP to discuss the stormwater management program and having conversations that looks like that's going to be a good opportunity for the city to partner with the district. I have met with Ms. Vivian Katz and then with Commissioner Condon at the district, as well as the potential continuing clean out of Alligator Creek as we move forward with the Black Creek project. Wanted to bring a couple of things to the council's attention. I'll be sending out an email tomorrow regarding Clay Day, which is going to be Wednesday, February 16th through the February 17th, with the reception on the 16th and then actual Clay Day at the Capitol on the 17th. Sending out invitations of anybody who's interested, so I can go ahead and make hotel reservations. With that being said, we do have our holiday extravaganza that's going to be this Saturday, and I want to give a shout out to Miss Christina Minks, who's done a fantastic job in putting this together. We've got over 20 vendors, including a petting zoo, and they're still coming in. That's going to be here this Saturday morning from 10 until 5. We have food trucks that are going to be here with the Kiwanis Christmas Parade, and then we also have live entertainment. Mr. Stephen Quinn from American Idol, a Nashville recording artist, will be playing down at the beach at 4 o'clock. The Kiwanis Christmas Parade at 6, and then we will be showing Tim Allen's The Santa Claus at the beach with free hot cocoa and Christmas cookies, compliments of some of our businesses who were generous enough to donate to that cause. So with that being said, we are very, very excited for this event this coming Saturday.
And it looks like it's going to be warm, 83 degrees with no rain.
Excellent.
You gotta love December in Florida, I tell you. It's the weirdest thing, shopping in flip-flops. It's still something that I'm having a difficult time getting used to. A quick shout out to Maria from the airport. She's done a fantastic job with Clay County Tourism, as well as Miss Lorena from the firm, putting together the event that happened this past weekend. They expected ticket sales of over 5,000, and most of those were out-of-towners, so they got introduced to the Keystone Heights in the Lake region, which was fantastic.
Yep.
The Nitro was extremely impressed, very, very proud to have their last U.S. race here in Keystone Heights, so we're hopes that that contract will continue on.
It looked like it was a fun event. I saw some of your live posts, and I also want to mention, I know Mr. Hart mentioned it before the meeting, but I want to make sure it's on record that I love the Christmas decorations, and I love driving through town now with the lights on. It's just really, really, I mean, it's beautiful. All the, don't you like the twinkles, Mr. Brown?
I was going to comment, but you took care of it. I do like the twinkles.
You like the twinkles? More twinkles, the better, right?
I might not be playing you-know-who, but I still got it.
Okay. So that's, those are my comments. Mr. Commando?
Just to let Councilman Brown know, if you do need help in the Supreme Court, I can still help you with that. I don't know who I'll see before our next meeting, so just to let you know, hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yes, all right. Anything else for the good of the order? I'm afraid we missed our Florida game, Mr. Hart.
Mike gets a little bit of a second.
All right.